about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
What if the biggest story in sports just dropped? A headline so massive it could bring an entire league to its knees. Imagine the sports world grinding to a halt. Not because of a championship win, but because of a single devastating sentence. Stephen A. Smith, with his signature intensity, just confirmed the WNBA's worst nightmare. And the fallout is only just beginning. The news involves Caitlin Clark, an injury, and her sudden absence from the game against Dallas. This isn't just about a rookie missing a game. It's about a potential catastrophe that has been brewing in plain sight. A ticking time bomb that may have just detonated, and the shock waves could shatter everything. The story of how we got here is more twisted and controversial than you could ever imagine. Filled with jealousy, on-court battles, and a media machine that may have sealed her fate. This isn't just speculation. It's the logical, terrifying conclusion to a drama that has captivated and horrified the nation. Every hard foul, every bitter comment, every ratings record has been a step toward this exact moment. A point of no return for a league that bet its entire future on one 22-year-old from Iowa. The silence that would follow that announcement would be more deafening than any sold-out arena's roar. A chilling void where the league's hopes and dreams used to be. And the most disturbing part is that every single person watching saw it coming. The scene would have been cinematic, a master class in sports television drama. Stephen A. Smith, leaning forward in his chair on First Take. The usual bravado replaced by a rare, chilling seriousness. He'd stare directly into the lens, silencing his co-hosts with a single glance. He would announce that his sources, impeccable and deeply embedded as always, had confirmed the unthinkable. Caitlin Clark suffered a significant ankle injury during a closed-door practice session. He would meticulously detail how it was a non-contact injury, the kind that happens when a body is pushed past its absolute limit. A culmination of the relentless physical punishment she's absorbed all season long. He'd declare her out indefinitely, starting with the upcoming marquee matchup against the Dallas Wings. In that instant, the entire digital world would fracture. X, formerly known as Twitter, wouldn't just trend. It would become an unreadable stream of pure, unadulterated rage. Breaking news alerts would scream across millions of phone screens, each one a tiny digital siren heralding a disaster. The narrative would immediately split into 1,000 warring factions. One side would scream that the league's bitter veterans had finally succeeded, their campaign of physical intimidation claiming its prize. Another would blame the league itself, accusing Commissioner Kathy Engelbert of gross negligence for failing to protect her golden goose. Conspiracy theories would flourish, with fans dissecting grainy practice footage for clues, convinced it was a targeted hit. The sports betting world would go into a tailspin, with the Indiana Fever's odds collapsing in real time. It would be a story so explosive, so perfectly engineered for outrage, because every single fan has been sitting on this powder keg, watching the media light match after match, just waiting for the inevitable explosion. This hypothetical bombshell is terrifying, because it's built on a foundation of very real, very dangerous pressure. Caitlin Clark isn't just a basketball player. She is a walking, breathing, record-shattering economic stimulus package. To truly grasp the cataclysmic impact of her absence, you must immerse yourself in the staggering numbers that define her rookie season. We're talking about teams like the Washington Mystics and the Las Vegas Aces abandoning their home arenas and moving games to massive NBA venues, not for a playoff series, but for a regular season game against the Indiana Fever, just to accommodate the tidal wave of ticket demand. We're seeing average ticket prices on the secondary market surge by over 240%, with fans paying premium prices just to be in the same building as her. The league's television ratings haven't just improved, they've entered a new stratosphere. Games featuring Clark are drawing audiences of 2 to 3 million viewers, numbers the WNBA hasn't seen since its inception in the late 90s. Networks like ESPN and ABC are building their entire summer broadcast schedules around her. She is the sole reason the league finally approved charter flights for all teams. A battle veterans had been fighting for years, only for it to be solved in weeks by her arrival. Her jersey became the top-selling draft pick jersey in history. For any sport, ever. Within hours of her being selected. She is, without a hint of exaggeration, carrying the financial destiny of a 28-year-old league on her 22-year-old shoulders. This isn't the standard pressure of being a number one pick. This is the crushing, unprecedented weight of being an entire industry's savior. Every franchise owner, every television executive, every merchandise partner is cashing in on the Caitlin Clark effect. So, when you entertain the idea of her getting seriously injured, you're not merely discussing a team losing its star player. You are discussing a multi-million-dollar corporation losing its CEO, its lead product, and its chief marketing officer all at once. The entire ecosystem faces an immediate and catastrophic market crash. And this immense pressure isn't just an abstract financial concept. It's being brutally enforced and physically manifested every single night on the court. The war against Caitlin Clark isn't a media fabrication. It's a nightly spectacle of aggression being fought in every screen she tries to navigate, every box out she endures, and every welcome to the league moment that veers from competitive physicality into something far more malicious. The flashpoint that exposed this ugly reality to the entire world was the flagrant off-ball assault by Chindy Carter of the Chicago Sky. It was not a basketball play. It was a premeditated blindside hip check, a blatant act of aggression designed to send a message. The fact that the referees missed it in real time, only upgrading it to a flagrant one foul after a league review, poured gasoline on an already raging fire. Carter's subsequent lack of remorse, and the inflammatory comments from her teammate Angel Reese, who was seen cheering the foul from the bench, turned the incident from a dirty play into a full-blown referendum on the league's culture. But this was far from an isolated event. It was simply the most visible symptom of a league-wide disease. Opponents set brutal, often illegal screens on her, treating her like a running back hitting the line of scrimmage. She is consistently hounded, bumped, and shoved miles away from the ball. A narrative solidified with alarming speed. The veterans of the WNBA were actively hunting her. They were using physical intimidation to try and break the phenom who they felt had usurped their spotlight. Whether every single hard foul is driven by malice is debatable. But in the court of public opinion, the verdict was in. The perception of a targeted campaign became an undeniable reality, creating a toxic, paranoid environment where every possession is a potential flashpoint. The physical toll was becoming obvious, but the narrative being weaponized around it by the sports media was about to make things infinitely more dangerous. Into this swirling vortex of controversy and conspiracy marched the undisputed king of sports media, the grand arbiter of hot takes, Stephen A. Smith. He didn't just report on the Chindy Carter incident. He ascended his throne on First Take, and became its chief prosecutor, judge, and jury. In a series of blistering viral monologues, he eviscerated Carter, and what he labeled the jealousy of the league's veterans. He thundered about how these players were attacking the very woman who was putting money in their pockets, raising their profiles, and finally making the world pay attention to their sport. He framed it not as a complex issue of professional frustration, but as a simple, black and white morality play. A young, brilliant hero being besieged by bitter, ungrateful villains. In doing this, Stephen A., alongside other media giants like Colin Cowherd and Pat McAfee, amplified the conflict into a national crisis. They weren't just covering the story. They were scripting it in real time, manufacturing a level of outrage that guaranteed clicks, views, and ratings. This 24/7 sports media machine, which thrives on conflict, had found its perfect protagonist and a legion of antagonists. They created a self-fulfilling prophecy, constructing a narrative that Clark was under constant siege. This, in turn, would put even more pressure on the players to be physical, on the refs to officiate a near-impossible standard, and on Clark herself to simply survive. The media wasn't just fanning the flames. They were pouring jet fuel on a fire that was threatening to consume the entire league. The most explosive and uncomfortable chapter in this drama has a name, a single toxic word that has been weaponized by fans and media alike: jealousy. The prevailing theory is that the WNBA's established stars, women who have dedicated their lives to building the league in relative anonymity, fighting for every scrap of attention and every dollar in their contracts, are deeply and profoundly resentful of the 22-year-old rookie who arrived to a coronation. Clark was handed the 9-figure Nike deal, the State Farm commercials, the Gatorade endorsements, and the immediate implementation of charter flights, luxuries, and signs of respect that veterans had spent their entire careers fighting for, only to see them granted overnight to a newcomer. The tension was palpable even before she played a single professional game. WNBA legend Diana Taurasi's infamous preseason warning that reality is coming for Clark, a comment initially dismissed as veteran tough talk, now echoes as a dark, ominous prophecy. Established stars like Aya Wilson, a 2-time MVP, have spoken eloquently about the racial dynamics at play, highlighting the frustration of seeing a white player immediately anointed as the face of a predominantly black league, while the accomplishments of black women who have carried the sport for years are suddenly treated as a footnote. This has exposed a raw, painful nerve within the sports culture. On one side, a new, massive fan base, largely loyal to Clark alone, screams that these veterans should be kissing the ground she walks on for the Caitlin Clark effect. On the other, you have a proud and accomplished group of athletes who feel their life's work is being actively erased and disrespected in the rush to crown a new queen. This isn't just about hard fouls on a basketball court anymore. It has morphed into a deeply personal and volatile conflict over respect, recognition, race, and the very soul of the league itself. What we are witnessing is the assembly of a perfect storm, a catastrophic convergence of forces creating an environment so toxic and unsustainable that a breakdown feels not just possible, but inevitable. You have the crushing financial pressure of being the league's entire business model, where every ticket sold and every TV contract signed is tethered to your health. You have the relentless, bone-jarring physical punishment on the court, where every opponent seems determined to prove a point at your expense. You have the suffocating weight of a ravenous media machine that has transformed your rookie season into a non-stop reality show, dissecting every turnover, analyzing every pained expression, and amplifying every ounce of conflict for public consumption. And beneath it all, you have the deeply fractured internal politics of a league grappling with a cultural civil war over issues of race, respect, and resentment. It is a ticking time bomb. Any athlete, no matter how seasoned, would crumble under this multifaceted assault. For a rookie still adapting to the speed and strength of the professional game, it is an unprecedented recipe for complete and total burnout, both mentally and physically. The human body can only absorb so many illegal screens and flagrant fouls before something gives way. The human mind can only withstand so much public scrutiny and internal pressure before it begins to fray. The situation has been escalating on a weekly, sometimes daily, basis. The question is no longer if something will break, but what will break first: her body, her spirit, or the league itself. The fictional headline about a season-ending injury ceases to feel like cheap clickbait, and instead begins to feel like the grim, logical, and unavoidable final act of a tragedy we are all watching unfold in slow motion. Now, let us return to that waking nightmare scenario. Let's imagine for a moment that Stephen A. Smith's fictional report was chillingly real. What if Caitlin Clark was officially ruled out for the season? Immediate aftermath would be nothing short of a corporate apocalypse for the WNBA. The record-breaking viewership would not just dip, it would fall off a cliff. Those sold-out NBA arenas would be haunted by the echo of thousands of empty seats and refunded tickets. The media frenzy, the league's lifeblood, would evaporate, replaced by a deafening silence of mainstream indifference. The league, after finally, miraculously breaking through the glass ceiling of national relevance, would see that relevance shatter into a million pieces overnight. And then, the truly destructive phase would begin. The blame game. It would be a toxic, league-wide witch hunt. The veterans, particularly women of color like Chendi Carter and Angel Reese, would be mercilessly vilified by the public, branded as the jealous villains who destroyed the league's savior. The front office and Commissioner Engelbert would face a firestorm of criticism, accused of catastrophic mismanagement and failing in their most basic duty, protecting their most valuable asset. The referees would be lambasted for losing control of the game and allowing the physicality to escalate into outright violence. It would become a circular firing squad of vitriol and recrimination, poisoning relationships, and tearing apart the fragile fabric of the league's culture for a generation. It would be the most painful and public proof imaginable that the WNBA's newfound success was not built on a sustainable foundation, but on the fragile shoulders of a single, now broken 22-year-old. So, here is the ultimate chilling truth. The headline is not real. As of this moment, Stephen A. Smith has not confirmed a catastrophic injury. Caitlin Clark is still scheduled to play. But the most terrifying aspect of this entire saga is how completely and utterly plausible that headline felt to you. The fact that the premise of a career-threatening injury, born from a toxic cocktail of on-court aggression, media-fueled resentment, and unbearable pressure, seems not just possible, but probable, is a damning indictment of the precarious situation the WNBA has created. All the necessary ingredients for disaster are present and accounted for. The league is playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette. It is gleefully and, understandably, cashing in on the generational revenue and ratings that Clark provides, while simultaneously appearing to ignore the incredibly toxic and physically dangerous environment that is closing in around her. This story is far from over, and it leaves us with a haunting question that should echo in the minds of sports executives and fans everywhere. Are we truly witnessing the glorious rise of a transformational superstar, or are we, the viewers, the media, and the league itself, all complicit in the slow, methodical, and very public destruction of the greatest asset the WNBA has ever had?